What rookie receiver in the NFC South bears watching in 2026? What sleeper tight end in the AFC North might be back to prominence? And how do we handle the number one pass catcher for one AFC East juggernaut this season? Plus, on the show, we have the former FFPC Pros versus Joe's Joe and FFPC Big Gorilla League champ Shawn Green on the program tonight. Maybe 2026 bare knuckle champion as well. Ferrell Elliott is here. My name is Eric Balkman. Stick around. High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour Extra Reps starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men that need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Bulkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome into the latest episode of Extra Reps, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour after show / spinoff podcast. It is presented by the Fantasy Football Players Championship over at myffpc.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Mr. Ferrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to analyze the Carolina backfield and how that pertains to fantasy. We're also going to talk about one returning receiver from injury that might affect a guy who's being drafted pretty high in FFPC leagues right now. And Shawn Green, the former FFPC Pros versus Joe, and former FFPC Big Gorilla League champion, will join us shortly here. We'll pick his brain on how he's been doing in his drafts this year and what his plans are for the bare knuckle draft coming up later on this September at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. If you want to connect with us on X, the show is at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Check out the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com, KFFSC.com. Email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/HSFF Hour. If you have any questions for us, send them in as soon as you can. We'll try to get to all of them tonight on the fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show. I want to thank our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce and our producer and mutual friend Rob. The FFPC is humming along with more options than ever for you playing fantasy football with FFPC. Led right now by the Big Gorilla. Drafts going off daily. $1 million grand prize, $350 to enter. 7 Bananas promo is live. The early Rampage tournament is also live as well. A $25,000 grand prize there. So it's 2 tournaments for the price of 1 entry fee, which is, how can you beat that? Answer, you can't. Baby Gorilla, if you always want to play high-stakes fantasy football, this is your perfect entrance into it. $100,000 will be the grand prize, and you can play for it for just $125. We got 2 separate best ball tournaments going on right now. One costs $125 to get in, and we upped that grand prize from $300K to $400K this year. The FFPC Superflex best ball tournament, $35 to enter, and a $100K grand prize there as well. Dynasty and Empire startups going on at myffpc.com. If you want to wheel and deal, make some trades, that is the way to do it with FFPC Dynasty. The main event, time is running out on that. 16 days to get involved in the FFPC Main Event Early Bird promo, where you will save $200 off your first main event team if you register prior to May 31st. And you'll also get $600 off each additional team, and you'll be in the Pros versus Joe's drawing. So you can compete against 42 industry pros for 7 free 2027 FFPC main event entries. And if you want to play guillotine style leagues, we got those as well. The FFPC chop leagues are filling up now. $35 to enter. Just don't be the least scoring team every single week, and you will win your league. Pretty easy. MyFFPC.com, MyFFPC.com is where to go. And I will remind you that all those leagues I just mentioned, you can deposit funds, register, draft, manage those teams, submit lineups, submit blind bids, submit trade offers, accept trades, whatever, all with the FFPC app, which is free for Apple users and Android users. You can use that as well. It's pretty awesome. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which I will give you the updated results on that, what's going on next week, because it should be a fun show, or a fun week of shows next week. The co-host with the most is coming in right now. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the commissioner of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship. You know him, you love him. It is Ferrell Elliott joining me on the program tonight. Happy Friday, my friend.
Hey, Balky, over this shoulder championship trophy from the KFFSC.
Oh, for this year, for this upcoming year?
Yeah, this
Oh,
one.
my.
Got it engraved and everything.
Now, does it have does it have my name engraved on it? Because
No, sir, because you were not the
Right,
champion. But you drafted amongst champions, Balky, and I think that's something that ought to be recognized.
I always say too with the KFFSC, and this is feedback I've gotten. Like, people love going to that and drafting in that, whether it's live or online, because it's great prep for FFPC. And how many people have done well at KFFSC and then they crush FFPC? You know what I mean? Like, it's I think that for and you know this too. I think for anybody who's never been out to Las Vegas and drafted in the FFPC, you can get a taste of it in Louisville every single year. And we have 3 live weekends this year at the KFFSC Fair.
We do. Ashland, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky at Caesars, Southern Indiana. And, Balky, one of the mainstays of the KFFSC has been, since the inception of the FFPC, to award our top 5 finishers with a team in the FFPC. We pay your entry fee because we want you to have that experience. And this year, the 2025 champions, there were 3 guys that had never played live in the FFPC that will be playing. There was one guy that had played online, and he'll be making his first trip. And it's pretty exciting to introduce the Las Vegas FFPC experiences to guys that have never been, because this is what year of the FFPC, Balky?
We started in 2008. So what would this
do
be?
The mathematicals there.
I think you're 19.
Yeah. So and I've been there for every one of them, and each year is something new, is something fantastic. It's just the greatest reunion in all of fantasy football. And so we want to have that same vibe here in Kentucky, and sometimes we get there.
I have had people both who drafted live at KFFSC and drafted live at FFPC over the last 10, 15 years or whatever. And they always say, like, you talk about these live events, in Las Vegas and Louisville and what have you, and you make it sound so awesome. And like it, so I had to go experience it. And I've had a bunch of people say afterwards, like, yeah, I get it now. I get it. Like, and I'll be back. It is fun. I mean, especially when you consider, all these people that, one of the parts I look forward to most in Kentucky and Las Vegas is these people I've made friends with and compete against. And I only get to see them in person like once or twice a year. And so it's always very cool to see them and hang out as much as we can, while we're drafting these fantasy football teams.
Well, we'll be there. The last weekend in August is our live week, but you can draft all throughout the summer in the main event and in the various ancillary leagues. And then we have the nice Labor Day weekend, and then we head to Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. So it's a great time of the year.
I want to bring on a guest right now who is no stranger to the live events. A guy.
It's always a great time ahead. This guy.
Yeah, I hung out with in Vegas before. Fun time with him. He is a previous winner of the FFPC Big Gorilla League Championship. He is a previous competitor. We had him on this show for Pros versus Joes when he was competing in that. Maybe he'll be a pro, or maybe he'll be a Joe again in that contest this year. We do know we'll see him out at Planet Hollywood as he will be drafting in the Bare Knuckle Challenge this year. Please welcome on to the program, Mr. Shawn Green. Shawn, what is up, man? How are you?
How you guys doing?
Very good. Very
We're
good.
excited.
Shawn, you're de-aging. You get younger every year. Next show, you'll have your hat on backwards. You just get younger every year.
That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, you draw the line.
No backwards hat. No backwards hat. Only Ken Griffey Jr.
I can't remember the last time I've done, because I used to do a backwards hat, but it's been a long time since I've done it. Shawn, first thing I want to ask you tonight, Bare Knuckle Challenge. number one, have you ever done it before? Number two, what was the impetus for you signing up for such a grueling event?
So last year, Steve G suckered me into doing his bare knuckles draft for him during the watch party.
I remember this.
No preparation whatsoever. I was completely checked out. All my teams were done. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to try this, right? And it was a grueling time, I'll tell you. But he wanted me to do it again. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be 100 times more prepared this year.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to study, the bye weeks, and, I'm going to have everything locked in here instead of on a piece of paper. You know what I'm saying? So
you
I'm ready for that.
stepped up and had your moment in history. Steve talked to me about doing it. And I said, Steve, I've got dinner reservations with a guy that's only here one night, and I've got to pick up a guy at the airport. And I got, it's that window of time after the Thursday night game. There's a lot going on in that, and I would not have been near as prepared as you, because the next morning I rolled in there to see, and I thought that was a good team. How did you guys finish up?
I believe we finished 5th or 6th.
Okay,
perfectly average.
Middle of the road with no real prep. So I think it's more of a mindset, Balky. You got to get in a mindset point. You can prep all you want, but you got to get it up here, and then you'll be okay.
I don't know anybody, Shawn, that's ever, because I remember I was talking with Steve at the watch party last year, and he was talking to me about how exhausted he was because he'd been doing so many drafts.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you get closer to the start of the season, people start doing more and more. And he was talking about how tired he was, and he was shopping it around trying to find somebody. Or he said he was planning on doing that. He was,
he's the last guy in the world that I want to say no or can't or to. And I sit there trying to think about, this guy could do this and this. No, I can't.
I'm looking at it right now. So the you guys took 7th last year, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In this, so kind of middle.
It felt like 5th. They played better. They felt like they played.
It fluctuates. It's a roller coaster, right?
Our buddy, former guest of this show, Joe Van Gogh, was the one who actually took it down last year. And then you're looking at let's see, God, who else? Jesus, this is a who's who that was. I mean, like Ira Berman was in this draft. Like
Ira
was in this draft. Don Metter, Michael Zucca, who's always tough to take out on this. By the way, team that was named Intoxicated, third.
And they were.
I know some people who do this draft intoxicated because they have too much at the watch party. But I will say, Shawn, is 7th place is kind of like, okay, well, whatever. But when you consider everybody else knew that they were doing this months ahead of time, and you had to cram basically for like an hour.
I didn't even have an hour. It was maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we
were winding down the 4th quarter.
It's just, that's insane that you did as well as you did in that. Did you get any picks skipped in that last year or no?
I picked one player that had already been taken, and they took him right at the break. So it kind of like threw me off. You know what I mean? But what I was doing, I was sitting there and I would have, 3 or 4 names in my brain, and I'm just saying them over and over and over again so I don't forget, because I was tired. It had been a long day for me as well. And I wasn't prepared. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to do this.
Right.
So, this year my prep starts now.
We get in the game phase. I remember Team Intoxicated. I said, that's an appropriate name. I said, you guys, I haven't seen anybody as drunk as you guys in Las Vegas since Dean Martin and Foster Brooks. And they looked at me like, what the hell is he talking about? And I can't help it that, I've been going to Las Vegas since I was 6 years old, so I can't help it,
Do you remember what spot you were drafting from, Shawn?
9. 9.
Oh, you know who it was? Intoxicated was again another former guest of the show, Kevin Schoenwolf.
Yeah,
that's who took 3rd last year. So, and you were drafting 9th, you said, Shawn?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got it. All right. Well, enough about the bare knuckle, guys. Let's move on to the meat and potatoes of the show. Okay. Shawn, I'll throw this to you right away, and Ferrell, I want you to weigh in on this. Pewter Report had a story this week. Zach Robinson was quoted as saying, having a true X is a weapon as an offense. And this is after Ted Hurst showed out at rookie minicamp, catching everything. Was on the field a ton, like really impressed a lot of the coaches, a lot of the media members there as a true X of the offense. Now, Zach Robinson talked about how versatile Godwin and Egbuka and Jalen McMillan were, but having the threat of having a true X receiver out there is certainly, he almost makes it seem like this is what puts you over. This is what tips you over in having a dominant offense this year. Now, I don't know if Ted Hurst is going to be running wind sprints his rookie year. I don't know if he's just going to be a go guy and what have you. But I know he can stretch the field. I know he can win contested catches. And certainly, I can't remember who said it. Wasn't Robinson. It might have been Ferrell. Who's the GM down there? Is that Jason Licht?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It might have been Licht who said something to the effect of, like, we don't have huge expectations for him year one, but there's also nothing to say that he can't come out and compete and show out and help us right away. So wide range of possibilities for Ted Hurst. The rookie drafts are behind us. So Shawn, I have to ask you, Ted Hurst, when you think about him in redraft leagues, knowing the talent, knowing the investment that the Buccaneers made, but also knowing Egbuka and Godwin are still on this team, what are your thoughts on Ted Hurst now in drafts this summer?
He's interesting, but I don't know where to take him yet because, like you said, they do have Egbuka, they do have Godwin, they do have McMillan, and they have Kate Otten at tight end, who they just re-signed. And I feel like Hurst came from a small school. He's a very raw prospect, a lot of potential. He was somebody I wanted my Niners to take, but we went with Stribling instead. So Hurst is interesting. I don't know where to take him yet. I want to see where some more reports.
Yeah, I mean, he's super late right now. He's wide receiver 86 in the Big Gorilla. This is behind Jack Bash, Christian Kirk. It's just ahead of Malachi Fields, another rookie, Jeremy Bernard as well behind Hurst. And I think, I don't know about you, Shawn. I don't usually want to be in business with receivers that late in the draft. But if I do feel like I still need, I'm like George Clooney in Ocean's 11. You think we need another guy? You think we need another guy? We'll get another guy. And then I get Hurst, right? So it makes sense to get Hurst at that point. Ferrell, Hurst, is this just the guy we let marinate on our dynasty rosters and we don't take a shot on in redraft? Or is there something there in your opinion?
I am ashamed of you two for not jumping on the Hurst bandwagon. I'm so driving that Hurst bandwagon. I've got the whip out. Look, he goes to a team that's very good at developing wide receivers. Some of the guys you mentioned, Greeny, were not some of the bigger names when they were drafted. So they were draft picks, but they were not some of the bigger names. This team is very good at developing the wide receiver, and they have moved Evans on through free agency, and they went to find what they thought kind of looked like him. And when you consider about who you're going to draft as an NFL team, you look at, this guy grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and he played at Valdosta State, and then he goes to Georgia State, and they play a pretty good brand of football there. And he's the highest draft pick ever out of Georgia State. There's others playing in the league, but he's the highest draft pick ever. And, for the dynasty players out there, we're talking about redraft. For the dynasty players out there, he'll turn 22 years old at about the time camp starts. I love the upside for this player, and I want to draft this player, and I want to keep him on the roster. And he's going to get better and better as the year goes on. And we spoke about these receivers, but when you look at Mbuga, he lost a lot of time. He was limited all year with a hamstring. He was not what he should have been in the games. McMillan missed most of last year. Isn't that right, guys? I mean, he was most of last year. And Godwin missed 7 games last year. I don't know the dependability of this receiver core, but I really like this player. And I think this player, as we get into the later parts of this season, will start and score with you when you especially when you get him on the field for bye week. So I love the upside for this player.
Yeah, Jalen McMillan ended up playing 13 games his rookie year. He only played in 4 this past season. And, I don't know, for me, it comes down to cost when it comes down to these players. Maybe the right move isn't investing in Egbuka and Godwin early. Maybe the right move is investing in McMillan and especially Hurst late.
Well, he made spectacular catches when he was in college. He didn't have the most consistent quarterbacking, but still caught a lot of balls. And then he took that into the Senior Bowl, and at the Senior Bowl practices, he did the same thing. And they had a wide gamut of quarterbacks. You know, this was not a great year for quarterbacks in the draft. And I just think I thought – I know he's a bargain for his fantasy players in the 17th and 18th round, and I thought he was a steal for Tampa.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually hoping my Green Bay Packers would get him. Alas, it was not meant to be.
You don't need no receivers. You're not Mr. Clooney. You don't need the other guy.
No, Green Bay lost. Green Bay lost Hicks. They lost Dobbs.
Doesn't matter. You've got all those guys.
Well,
you got Watson, don't you?
They got Watson, yeah, but I still think I might hop on Highway 41 and take a trip up there and just work out for him and say, hey, listen, I can catch a few balls from Jordan Love. And it looks like you guys might need some help because that is an awfully concentrated passing game that they have now there with Watson, Reed, Golden, and Kraft. And, Bo Melton and Savion Williams, who knows? Okay, let's move on here. Let's get to some emails tonight, guys. Ferrell, I will throw this to you first, but I definitely want to get Sean's input on this. This is something, Ferrell, I think we've talked about in the past. I could be wrong, but I definitely want to pick your brain on this once again. Brent in Shepherd, Texas writes in, are FFPC players sleeping on Mark Andrews big time right now? Thanks, fellas. That is Brent in Shepherd, Texas. Now, when he says sleep on, we have to go to the ADP, which we always – Fantasy Mojo is the go-to. If you're playing an FFPC, get a subscription to Fantasy Mojo. It's going to help you out. Darren Armani, the godfather of the pros versus Joes, he runs that website. You can connect with him on X at Fantasy Mojo as well. Mark Andrews has moved up, Ferrell, but he's moved up to tight end 15 right now. He is on average going at the 909 of FFPC Big Gorilla drafts. Look at the tight ends that are sort of going above him. It's Dalton Kincaid right above him, Jake Ferguson right above that. And then you're looking at just a few picks, maybe even like a half round after Andrews. We see Dallas Goedert go off, Kenyon Sadiq go off. I like Andrews significantly better than those guys. I think if you want to sell yourself on Kincaid over Andrews, I can definitely get on board with that. And I understand why people would be taking Ferguson over Andrews. But I don't know if Andrews' ascent has ended yet, Ferrell. Matthew Hibner, who you said on this show a couple of months before the NFL draft that you liked him. Baltimore ends up drafting him. They also draft, I believe, Josh Cuevas, who was a day 3 pick, tight end from Alabama. That was it. And Andrews gets extended this past year. Normally, if we connect the tea leaves on stuff like this, we're like, oh, my God, this is going to be a big year for Andrews. Lamar Jackson's healthy. He doesn't have to deal with Isaiah Likely. You look at Andrews now at tight end 15. Is that not a bargain? Should we be pushing him up more?
I feel like one of those congressmen who wants to say something actually smart and then cede his time to Greeny. I want to say something real quick, and then I want to
cede my time to the gentleman from New Mexico.
And Greeny might cede it back. I don't think anyone knows. And I was a little smug in September because if you remember, Andrews got off to a pretty good start this past year. And then towards the end of the year, it was quite tepid. I think the biggest thing about fantasy drafters is they look at it and they say, Likely's gone, because they have fond memories of this player. And they have a belief in a new coaching staff. There's reasons to see. I'm a wait and see. This is one of the guys that I put on the list in training camp. And exhibition season is not what it used to be. And I don't know how much we'll see this guy on the field. But I want to see how it's clicking. I'm a wait and see on this player. But I can make a case that if I want 3 tight ends in the FFPC, this guy should be one of them.
Sean, he's tight end 15. Is that a spot you want to be in business with him?
Absolutely. I actually did a gorilla on the live stream on here the end of April, and I took him 9-7. He was my first tight end on that team. And I've seen him going so late in many best ball drafts that I've done. And like you said, I mean, there's not much in that room, they like Hibner. They traded up to get Hibner in the draft.
Mhm.
But for me, Andrews, I mean, yeah, he's going to be 31, but he and Lamar have that rapport. They have that history. That's Lamar's guy. They have a new offense. Obviously, I don't know how that's going to go, but I've seen some reports that he's liking the Declan Doyle install so far. So that's a plus. You know, there's a lot of potential there. And for where you're taking him, I feel like that's stealing. You know, and some of the tight ends that he's going around, I'm not as interested in. And, you know, you have other guys, you know, like Tucker Kraft, I love, but coming off the ACL. And, you know, Kincaid, I don't know, Goddard, you know, now they have Stowers. There's just so many guys that I've seen that in that range that just give me Andrews, you know. I think Hibner will get some work at some point. But, you know, the whole rookie tight end thing, typically,
yes,
you know, it's not great early on.
And Hibner is evaluated by most scouts as a end of the roster backup tight end, and I like the way he played at SMU.
Yeah.
But I think most scouts might be right. He's going to be a good football player. I don't think he's going to be much for fantasy. So in best ball, this guy is a no-brainer. Andrews is a no-brainer in best ball. You should target this guy in best ball.
To Sean's point about rookie tight ends, like that's kind of like gone by the wayside a little bit in the last several years. However, it's been with like the elite guys, right? It's been the guys that are getting day 1, day 2 draft capital. A guy like Hibner, day 3, then yeah, I mean, maybe we see something in 2027, but I don't think we see much from him in certainly not much from him in 2026, where it's going to cause you to say, you know what, I'm going to pass on Andrews and I'm going to draft Chiga Okonkwo.
It's big with guys. The rookie tight ends have been successful when they're in a 12 personnel set and they're lining up in the slot. And the ones that do that are now successful in fantasy football. This guy's not lining up the slot. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. He moves well for a guy that's 6'5" and 260 pounds, but you know.
And also regarding like certainly Hibner and Cuevas could be the future for tight end in Baltimore. I don't think it is. I think that if they ever move on from Andrews, which they will eventually, they'd have to at some point. There's going to be somebody else. I don't think, especially if you're dynasty, I don't think you're like, if you're holding Hibner that you got in like the 5th or 6th round, you're not holding the future Ravens tight end, number 1. I don't see that.
He'll be playing when he's 36 or 38.
Right.
Well, in the year that they took Mark Andrews in the draft, they also took Hayden Hurst.
Yes.
I believe that was the same year. And
Hayden who?
Hayden Hurst, baby.
He was okay. But obviously we see that Andrews turned out much better, you know, so that's the thing, you know, with these rookies. One of these guys might hit, but I don't expect it to be in 2026.
Hayden Hurst was a baseball player. He was selected by the Pirates in 2012, played 2 seasons with the Pirates, and then he walked on to South Carolina's football team and then was drafted, as Sean pointed out, 1st round, 25th overall in 2018 by the Baltimore Ravens. And I believe he retired in 2024, I want to say. No, March 9th, Hayden Hurst retired of this year. So he's just only been retired for 2 months. Interesting.
And Balky, you mean he played in the Pirates system? He didn't play for the Pirates.
Did not play for the Pirates.
All right, you're going to keep, a broadcast professional like you can't say those things.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Greeny, I can say Greeny. You see Hurst play for the Pirates, Greeny? I remember.
No, sir.
You know.
He I don't know how high he got in the organization, but I know that. I shouldn't laugh about this. It's not funny. But he had 1 minor league pitching appearance for the Pirates. He walked 5 and threw 2 wild pitches.
Wow.
1/3 of an inning. Okay.
Well, we see. Yeah, that wasn't his sport, I guess.
No, it wasn't his sport. And by the way, I think I might have been able to do that. Walk 5 guys and throw 2 wild pitches.
I guarantee I could walk everybody.
All right, moving on to our next email here tonight. Sean, we'll pitch this one to you first. Dan in Indianapolis, how much are you guys targeting Chuba Hubbard this season? Now, as a little bit of background here, when we were doing the show on Wednesday night, we were talking with Stuart Keene, who was in a draft with me. In that draft, I ended up selecting Chuba Hubbard I mean, I wouldn't say on the stream because I didn't make a big deal out of it, but I did make the pick while we were on the stream. And I kind of like him as a third running back this year. Sean, I'll let you weigh in on this because that Carolina backfield is kind of fun to look at.
Honestly, I've been drafting Chuba Hubbard all offseason here. He's, like you said, he's probably my top running back 3. I mean, he could end up as a 2 on your team depending on how you build your squad, but I like him more as a 3. But I've seen so much hype with Jonathan Brooks, and we don't know who Jonathan Brooks is going to be now. Coming off the ACL that he tore twice in the same knee, he hasn't played in a while. I mean, the expectation is that he's going to be, the backup when he's going to work in, but I don't know how much the coaching staff is going to push him. I mean, they have ETN. I don't know how much he's going to play. They signed A.J. Dillon, who probably is just a camp body. And Chuba, they paid him, I think, going into 2024. And I think, last year Chuba was hurt. Rico came in, he ran well. And then in the playoff game, it was pretty much the Chuba Hubbard show.
Yeah.
I like Chuba. I'm drafting him wherever I can, personally. I'm Team Chuba this year.
Ferrell, there has been a lot of hype about Jonathan Brooks. I feel like that hype has driven his ADP to a spot where I'm with Sean. I'm much more comfortable drafting Hubbard at this spot, at the spot he's going, rather than Jonathan Brooks. And quite frankly, the only other guy in that backfield as it stands right now, sophomore Trevor Etienne. Or do we still call him Etienne?
I'm saying Etienne. I'm not saying that.
Okay, all right. So we'll go Trevor Etienne on that. There's a lot in Carolina, an up-and-coming offense in a division that, I know some of those teams in that division got better in the draft on defense, but man, we could see some shootouts there, and Chuba Hubbard could be the cheese that is standing alone in Carolina.
Guys, how hurt was he last year? Was he limited?
I think he had a calf injury, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But I know when Rico Dowdle was in there, he was running for 200 yards. He was shredding the Cowboys and I think the Dolphins.
And you look at what Hubbard did, and from a stat-wise situation, he had 15 or north of 15 carries almost every game through the first few. And then you just couldn't deny Dowdle. And I focused on Dowdle early in the draft, thinking he would supplant Hubbard very quickly. And it took a while. It was, Halloween had to come and go before we really saw them lean into Dowdle. And I'm ready to see it from Hubbard. If not this year, when I was a little surprised to see that they extended him in the way that they did contractually. And obviously they believe in him too, to do that.
Right.
But 30 catches last year, 1 touchdown. It was a tough year. And so, you got a lot of hopium when you draft him, but look, when you're looking for that third running back, there's not a lot of choices. But Balky, he's going in front of Pollard, right?
Yeah, he is. I want to verify this right now.
Greeny, on Wednesday night, we talked a lot about, at least I talked a lot about Pollard as how much I liked him. But you would comparing those guys, you're still going to go with Hubbard, or you're like a Pollard better?
I'm going to go Hubbard.
Yeah, everybody else is too.
I like Pollard, but they also have Spears. They drafted Singleton. I don't know who's going to amount to what in that backfield, but there's less competition in Carolina. I think Brooks is one that he's very polarizing right now because I've seen him going in, rounds 8, rounds 9, round 10. Chuba's going, mid 6, I guess. I mean, I know it fluctuates. He was going in the 7th earlier in this draft season, so I'm sticking with Chuba. He's my guy. I mean, I was mentioning that I did that Gorilla in late April.
Yeah.
I took Mark Andrews. I also took Chuba Hubbard as my third running back.
And and because I'm not a big Hubbard guy, but I'm drafting him a few spots, and I think I'm going to end up ceding to guys like you that really love him, because there's more of you out there than there are guys like me that's taking a wait and see approach.
I'm going to do a little tribute to one of my favorite movies of all time here.
What?
A Few Good Men.
Oh, yeah.
It was Rob Reiner directed, Tom Cruise, Kevin Pollak, Demi Moore, Jack Nicholson. Great. There is a scene in that movie where Tom Cruise has Jack Nicholson on the stand, and he is drilling him on how his character was coming from Guantanamo Bay to Washington, D.C., and he made 3 phone calls and he was only going to be there for a few days. And Private Santiago, who died and was leaving Guantanamo Bay for the rest of his life, made 0 phone calls, right? And so this is how I'm going to do it right now when we talk about this Dowdle Hubbard thing from last year. Hubbard gets hurt in week 4, okay? And he missed the next 2 games. Dowdle rushes for 400 yards. And the Panthers were so impressed with Dowdle after he rushed for 400 yards in 2 games that they let Hubbard and Dowdle split time. And then they let Dowdle go to free agency. Okay? They were so impressed with what he did and that they just let him go to free agency and sign for a minor deal in Pittsburgh. Hubbard was hurt. And couldn't even play at all. And Dowdle crushed it for 400 yards. That's how the Panthers reacted. Dowdle was leaving Carolina for the rest of his life to go to Pittsburgh. And Hubbard, now granted, Hubbard signed that deal. And maybe this is a poor analogy, but that's my point, is when we talk about liking Chuba Hubbard, you have to understand what Carolina did. Yeah, I know they signed him into the deal prior to what Dowdle did. But if Dowdle was so good and rushing for all that yardage, they didn't let him take over as the back. He was splitting time with Hubbard, and then they let him go to free agency. What is it with Rico Dowdle, by the way, that this guy crushes in Dallas, he crushes in Carolina, and these teams just let him go? I mean, I don't, I feel sorry for Rico Dowdle because things should be better for him, and it's not. And you know what's going to happen this year, guys? He's probably going to rush for 800 or 900 yards in Pittsburgh. He's going to have several meaningful fantasy weeks, and he's going to sign a $3 million contract with the Cardinals or somewhere.
Yeah, there you go.
27. It's just I'm in that circle. Okay, we got to move on here. That was a horrible analogy, by the way. I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, we got to talk about your movie. It was really good, Balky, and that's the truth. Even if you can't handle the truth,
that was. I'm telling you that. Not that I want to turn this into a movie thing. Sean, do you like courtroom dramas as far as movies?
Oh yeah.
So for me, like anytime I watch A Few Good Men, I'm like, okay, what's the next courtroom drama that I have? Like Runaway Jury is pretty good. Like
Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill. Oh my God, A Time to Kill is so good. Yeah,
excellent.
That's another good one.
The Verdict, Paul Newman, one of my favorites.
Okay, I gotta watch. That'll be on my list.
You haven't seen The Verdict?
I have not seen The
And
Verdict.
you host a movie show?
I do. But we
God.
we don't really delve in. Where I don't. Okay, I'm not going to turn this into a movie podcast. By the way, if you are looking for my movie podcast,
send me that link.
Off Topic with Ben and Balky. Find it anywhere on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. Let's get back to the emails here. Shameless.
That's just The Verdict.
The verdict is we have not done the verdict yet, but we'll have to do it on a future show. Tim in Nogales, Arizona. Who am I throwing this to? Let's throw it to Ferrell. Hello, gentlemen. How are you guys handling DJ Moore in drafts right now? Thank you so much. Ferrell, DJ Moore, the receiver that Buffalo didn't not the receiver Buffalo wanted, but the one that they deserved, or vice versa. I don't know how it goes. But Moore will be catching passes from Josh Allen this year. If we look at his mojo right now in the Big Gorilla over the last 7 days, I can tell you that he is going as wide receiver 21 at the 502. So if you want DJ Moore, you got to soak an early 5th round pick into him. Does that sound like a price you want to be doing business with Mr. Moore this year?
I think so. I've been a long time Khalil Shakir supporter, but I'm going away from that in fantasy football this year. We've had a little bit of underperformance from the tight end position, not quite what we expected at that. There's a lot. There is an opportunity for a receiver to come in and help this quarterback realize the air yards that he should have. So I'm somewhat bullish at that position on DJ Moore. I haven't drafted him that much, but I can see why people are.
Sean, when you talk about DJ Moore and what he was in Carolina, what he was in Chicago, is he going to capture most of that or a significant part of that when you think about him catching passes now from Josh Allen in Buffalo? It's mouthwatering.
It is. honestly, another guy I've been drafting all offseason once the trade happened. I don't know that he was a great fit with Chicago and their offense. I do think that he'll be a very good fit for Buffalo because, he played for Brady in Carolina. He's got familiarity with the offense, and he's never played with a quarterback this good.
Never.
And that's something where if he's engaged, I think we see the best of him this year. Typically when these guys get traded, these star diva receivers, whatever you want to call them, they always have a chip on their shoulder. And then their next team, you've seen it with A.J. Brown when he went from Tennessee to Philly. Going back in the day, D-Hop when he went from Houston to Arizona. Randy Moss. When he went to New England, I thought, oh, he's done. Well, shows what I know because he had, 23 touchdowns.
You weren't alone in that, by the way, Shawn. There's a lot of people that thought Moss was done when he went to New England.
Yeah. And that's just the reality of things. I think DJ Moore in Buffalo is a good thing. I don't expect him to come in and put up like the Diggs numbers because Diggs and Allen had a great thing going. But I could see him, 1,300 yards, double-digit touchdowns, something in that range.
How many catches to get there? 1,300 yards, 80, 85?
Probably in that range because Shakir's still going to get work. And I know they're still going to, use the tight ends. And I think they're still trying to figure out what Kincaid is, who he is. But they gave up their second-round pick to get more. And they didn't take another guy at the end of the first round. I thought possibly they might draft a young guy. I think they might have been interested in Concepcion because there was a trade after that. But they traded back. And I think they're comfortable with Moore and Shakir and
But you guys know, in fantasy perspective, you've got the quarterback talent, you've got wonderful running back talent. I appreciate everything Green said about the other players. I see Shakir as a good slot receiver, but not a big fantasy producer and someone who doesn't get downfield. And the one thing we've left out, we've got a challenged defense that has to play some teams in division that can score the ball, not necessarily the Jets. But they're
the Dolphins.
Play a good team out of New England a couple. Yeah, I like it. The more Green talks about it, the more I like it. I want to go join a big gorilla and get me some fourth round more.
Moore's been an easy click for me personally. So.
I can't remember, and I think I brought this up on the show before, but I'll do it again. And I can't quite remember exactly who said this originally. I think it was Matt Waldman from Football Guys, but it has to do with Jazz. So anytime I hear Jazz and football, I just assume Matt Waldman. He said, okay, so if we go back to last year, the way that the Bears season ended in that NFC divisional playoff, it ended with Caleb Williams throwing an interception and the Rams winning that game. There was some blame that went back and forth. We don't really know officially whether it was Caleb Williams' fault or DJ Moore's fault. Certainly I've seen it explained both ways on X by all the experts on X, whose fault it was on that play. But one of the things that I think that encapsulated is DJ Moore is not this route tactician where you always know exactly where he's going to be at exactly, the right time on every single play, right? That's not DJ Moore's game. And I think the way the Bears run their offense in Ben Johnson's offense there and Declan Doyle last year, he needed to be that. And that's why we saw him take a back seat to Burden and Loveland and Odunze to a certain respect
before he got hurt.
Before he got hurt, right. And then Odunze gets hurt, and then we don't see this ascent from Moore at all. Well, Brian Windhorst, right? Well, why is that? Why would he do that? So I think that, and so he gets traded to Buffalo, and Josh Allen was asked about this, and Allen said, that's not really the way I play football. Like, I don't care about that. He's like the anti-Aaron Rodgers. You don't need to be in an exact spot at an exact right time for me. It's like jazz, right? They're just moving around and like it's a feel thing. It's a chemistry thing, right? And so while I think DJ Moore, as you pointed out, Shawn, not the greatest fit and perhaps maybe even a poor fit for Ben Johnson's offense in Chicago, for Joe Brady's offense in Buffalo, he could be a quasi-perfect fit there. And make beautiful music with Josh Allen.
And flip back to Chicago, look who he was sharing targets with a quarterback that sometimes was not moving the chains.
Yeah.
And not the clearest talent at the running back position.
Right.
And just a lot of things there that were different from what they are in Buffalo. I like him, man. I'm going to draft him in the 3rd round, Greeny. You'll never get him again.
All right,
I'm going in. I'm going strong, late 3rd. You better come with it.
That's strong.
Michael Pittman's getting a little jealous right now.
Yeah. Well, we established on Wednesday his future is at quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. Future quarterback Michael Pittman. Okay, final email tonight, Sean. We'll throw this one to you first. I'm going to find my email tab here. Justin in Muir, Michigan. Muir, I don't know. Muir. Hey, Ferrell and Balky and Sean, how much do you think Tank Dell eats into Nico Collins' targets in 2026? Thank you, Justin in Michigan. We appreciate this. So I'll preface this by saying, if we look back to when Tank Dell was healthy, and I know that seems like it was about 1996 at this point, but there was a time where he was healthy in 2024. And if we remember, CJ Stroud, the year he came into the league, told the Texans that, hey, you should go out and draft Tank Dell. I want to be throwing to Tank Dell. And the target distribution between Dell and Collins, there wasn't a huge disparity between it. And now Dell comes back, and I know it was a really bad injury, and I know he's not all the way back yet. But, Sean, I can't help but wonder, if Dell comes back this year, yeah, maybe we can look at him late. But what does this do for Nico Collins? Is this moving the needle for you on Nico Collins at all in drafts where maybe if you're gonna take a receiver at the point where Collins is going, that you're gonna take a receiver other than him because you're worried about this? Or am I making a mountain out of a molehill here?
For me, I look at Dell and, is he the 5th option in the offense possibly?
Could be 5th or 6th, maybe even.
Right. I mean, Nico to me is elite, but obviously last year he was going, late 1st, early 2nd, and now he's falling into round 3 in some cases. And to me, that's a steal. Yeah. The talent is still there. If we can get Stroud playing at the level that he played as a rookie, that's a big thing. Last year they invested in Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins. Dalton Schultz had a great season last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how Dell comes in and takes anything from Nico. Again, their defense is legit, probably the best defense in football. So I don't know how many shootouts they're going to be in. And I think when they are passing, what are we looking at? 30 pass attempts a game, possibly. Yeah. I'd say the majority is probably going to go to Nico.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys that they invested in, the rookies from last year, they're going to be on the field. I think Higgins is ascending. I think Dell will be a guy in the offense. I don't know that he's going to take anything away from Nico. I don't know that he's going to take anything away from Higgins, and even Noel. Maybe Noel gets out there too, and we see more from him.
The only threat to the targets of Nico Collins is Nico Collins' health.
Right.
He's put up these 1,000-yard receiving seasons, and he rarely plays a full season. I look back to 2024; he missed 4 games with injury, maybe 5 games.
He was on fire to start that season.
What that year would have been if he had played the full season, and that's what I'm looking for this coming year. And Green, you're such a good fantasy player, and we're talking here about a guy that you obviously figured out at the 3rd pick is a steal, and then we talked about Brown. The 5th round pick is a steal, and you've got a great handle on this, and I love Collins. And if the quarterback is going to ever become the quarterback that we expect him to be, it's going to be through Nico Collins in this offense.
Right.
Collins.
That's where I am with him.
Collins in 2024 missed 5 games, and he still caught 68 balls for over 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
and that's significant. And on that offense too,
right.
Which I mean, I think we have to equate that into the
and it's a new coordinator now, because I know in 24 they had Slowick. They fired him, and I think they have the guy from the Rams. I can't remember his name.
I'm looking it up right now.
Chaney, I think, or something.
Nick Caley.
Sorry.
Yeah, and that Rams coaching tree will continue to expand through the league, just like the 49ers did.
And I know he was a tight end coach, I believe, with the Patriots before that.
If I had interviewed for that job, I would have walked in the office and said, I'm going to make sure that Nico Collins gets the ball. And they say, good, you're hired. And then it's done. You go downtown to the Oilman's Club and have some cocktails.
The
simple.
The the last thing I'll leave you guys with regarding Nico Collins here tonight. He is in this glut in the mid-third right now of FFPC Big Gorilla drafts. Pickens, Olave, Collins, and A.J. Brown all going between 304 and 308 on average. The receivers after that aren't going until the fourth round. And Malik Neighbors is the other receiver going right before that at the 212. And he could fall into that area too, because we probably won't get any news on his injury until much later in drafting season. So, yeah, I mean, Collins in the mid-third, go with God. I have no problem with that. There, it could work out very, very nicely, especially if the Texans offense performs as well as many people think it will, and perhaps as well as one Shawn Green will be performing at the Bare Knuckle Challenge Draft at Planet Hollywood.
I'm already stressed. But I'll be ready. I'll be ready.
No,
You're more than ready. You're more than ready. You know the best way to prepare for that, I'll tell you, and it'll cure all your stress. And it's, we've been curing stress here in Kentucky for years. You just need to come to Kentucky. Balky will double down on that for you.
Yeah.
You need to be here in Kentucky. I've appreciated all your online play, but now's the time to, show up. I'll have a commemorative gift for you when you show up related to the Chicago White Sox. So,
it's hard to turn down, Shawn. And what do you say to that? You don't say no. I will look forward to seeing you perhaps in Kentucky, but for sure in Las Vegas this year. Until then, Shawn, we will continue to connect with you on X at _green_1 on there. Who, by the way, is in your X profile photo? Is that Leroy Butler that you're shaking?
It is. I met him in Vegas. They were doing some meet and greet, and I was like, hey, I respect the game. I'm all about it. He was such a nice guy, but it is Leroy.
Leroy Butler, Ferrell, not only a Green Bay Packers legend, but a Florida State Seminoles legend as well.
He's clicking both left and right for you, Bulky, but he is not the real Leroy.
No, he's not the real Leroy. The real Leroy is somebody totally different. Maybe we'll see him in Kentucky this year. We should.
One thing for you guys before I go.
Please.
I need to get this autographed. Yeah, I want some autographs on this shirt.
Yes,
it's not the same until I have those.
Yeah,
look at that. Look at that.
I will.
Steve G hooked it up.
I will be happy to autograph that. I don't know if we'll have more shirts again.
Oh, Steve G is promising, as he refers to them.
Yeah.
The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour and Extra Reps T-shirt 2.0.
Oh, can't wait.
Look forward to it.
So I'll my wrist. I will throw up my wrist signing autographs again.
There you go.
In Las
There
Vegas.
we go. Let's get those signed.
Shawn, be good, man. And good luck, by the way, in the Pros versus Joe's drawing. Maybe you'll be a Joe again this year.
I'm hoping.
Good luck, man. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. That is Shawn Green.
Talk about some nervous pros, you know what I'm saying?
The pros need to be nervous in Pros versus Joe's, Ferrell. They don't win. It's super rare when they do. And by the way, I think the last pro to win it was technically a Joe.
Yeah.
Dan Williamson and Theo Greminger. I think they won it a couple years ago as pros, but we all know they're FFPC Joes. They know what they're doing, so.
You got to be honest to your roots. And speaking of being honest to your roots, a noted Raider fan, Balky, put your chain on. Can you reach your chain from here? Can you get to it?
Get the chain on.
I wanted to point. Don't pull that light down. I wanted to point out to you that the league in the Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship in the KFFSC, the next to fill will likely be the Daryl LaMonica division.
Oh, there you go. Daryl LaMonica. I love it. To register for that, go to KFFSC.com. Click on there's the drop down. You want to click on Sweet 16 Best Ball Championship. Mm-hmm. And that is a 4-hour slow draft, which I should actually pop into that one.
Yeah, why not?
And then it'll be down to half. We're halfway there. Yeah, register for that as well as the main events. There's some auctions on there as well. If for those of you who like auctions and Draft Masters as well. So check it out. KFFSC.com. KFFSC.com. Ferrell, enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for hanging out with me once again tonight. And we will do this all again next Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, dude.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
That is Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football. And that will conclude our broadcast. And I'll tell you what's coming up next week in just a little bit. Number one, FFPC Big Gorilla, $350 to enter $1 million grand prize, 7 bananas, and early Rampage tournaments going on right now. Early Rampage tournament, $25,000 grand prize, 2 tournaments for the price of 1. Baby Gorilla, just $125 to enter. Same format as the Big Gorilla, $100,000 grand prize. How can you go wrong with that return on investment? The Best Ball Tournament and the Superflex Best Ball Tournament, $125 and $35 to enter respectively. Don't forget that you can win $100 grand in that Superflex tournament for entering for $35. And that Best Ball Tournament is a $400,000 grand prize as opposed to $300K, which is what it was last year. Dynasty and Empire Dynasty startups available at myffpc.com, starting at $100, going all the way up to $5,000. And the FFPC Main Event Early Bird, 16 days to sign up for that right now. $200 off your first team, $600 off each additional team if you register by the end of May, and you'll be entered into that Pros versus Joe's drawing with Shawn Green. Maybe you'll be in the same league as him if you guys both get selected and compete for 7 free 2027 main event entries, $2,200 value for each one of those teams. Chop leagues, guillotine style leagues available now at myffpc.com. All those can be registered for, drafted, and managed with the FFPC app, available for both Apple users and Android users as well. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. MyFFPC.com is, by the way, to where to go to sign up for those leagues. Now, what's going on next week? Next week's a little bit different. So as it stands right now, and this is all subject to change, Wednesday night, we will go live at 10 p.m. Eastern time with the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, myself and Ferrell. Insider access, I believe, will be moved next week from Thursday to Friday. So what we will do on Friday, and I have to talk with Dave Terpoli about this yet, but I believe at 7 p.m. Eastern time, or I beg your pardon, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we will be covering on a special Friday edition of FFPC Insider Access. Myself and Dave Terpoli will be covering the FFPC Hardway Draft, which is all your favorite industry guys and FFPC players competing for not only a Big Gorilla title, but trying to win $1 million. So we're going to jam all these players, and they do this every year. We're going to jam all these really good players into one draft to try to figure out if one of these guys can separate and make it all the way to winning $1 million. Last year in this draft, we had the back-to-back Football Guys winner, Abib Egbatoba, was in it. Adam Krautwurst and Mike Shope shared a team. You also had JD from the GOAT District having a team in this. Austin Martin and I think Seth Kaler shared a team in this as well. The former back-to-back main event champions, the Go Bills franchise, with Nick Costantino, Don Baragni, and I knew I was going to forget his name. And he's so this is going to irritate me. I'm going to look it up right now because it's bad that I can't remember. And I know people are screaming into their phones right now. It was Sean. I'm sorry, Sean Stutzman right now. Sean Stutzman. Sean, I apologize. But all 3 of those guys shared a team, obviously. You had Bradley Stalder in this, John Daigle from Establish the Run, Darren Armani from Fantasy Mojo, Noah Riddell, who's been on this show before. You had Todd Burrows in that draft, Theo Greminger and Dan Williamson, obviously, were in this draft as well. So next Friday at 8:00, again, this is subject to change. I don't want to lock you into this, but I think that's what we're going to do. And then by the time that draft is wrapping up, 10 p.m. comes around and it's FFPC Extra Reps time. So you'll get 3 hours of fun and frivolity and fantasy football next Friday if this goes according to plan. But that is the current plan to do that next week. Okay. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll wrap things up now. And I want to thank Shawn Green, Ferrell Elliott, for both those guys. My name is Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
The other thing I will say, too, if it does, I mean, I'll keep you abreast on what's going on. But if that falls through, we'll have our normal FFPC Insider Access at 7 o'clock next Thursday. And we'll still do extra reps at 10 o'clock next Friday. There you go. Thanks for bearing with me. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Talk with you again soon.